Hello guys, in this video I'm going to teach you how to work with your Oracle. So if you don't have Oracle on your system, then you can go to this oracle.com.in and in that you can go to this resources and in that you can go for the software downloads. And here when you move down, you have the different databases that are freely available for you and you can download any one of them. So I have already downloaded this 11C Express edition on my system. So I'll show you how to work with that. So once you have already downloaded, then you can go to your start button. And when you go to your programs that are installed, you can go to your Oracle. Are you able to see this? Oracle is there already installed on my system. So I'll go there and I'll search for this SQL Plus. So I'll click upon this. Once you click on that, you will get a screen like this, SQL Plus. It will be asking for the username and password. You can give your username and password, or you can even work as a system admin. So if you want to work as a system admin, then you can give this command SQL Plus / as sysdba. That means you are trying to log in as system database administrator. So I'll try to log in as this system admin, and then it's asking for password. So I don't know what is the password, so I'll use this command alter user HR identified by SIT account unlock. I want this account to be unlocked, so I'll use this command and I will give this as the password. So once you do that, if you are successfully connected to the Oracle, then you will get this command connected to Oracle database 11G Express Edition releases this March, and you will get the cursor here, right? So if you have got this March, that means you are ready to work with your SQL. So now let us look at the problem statement. So the problem statement goes like this. Consider the following schema for a library database. And these are the relations that are there in your library database along with the attributes. The first relation is book 1 with attributes book ID, title, publisher name, pub, year. Then the next relation is book authors, book ID, author name or its attributes. Then comes your publisher relationship. It has got attributes like name, address, phone. Then we have another relation, book copies 1. It is having attributes book ID, branch ID, number of copies. Then we have another relation, book lending, and the attributes are book ID, branch ID, card number, date out, and due date. Then we have this library branch 1, right? So in that we have the attributes like branch ID, branch name, address, right? And you are supposed to execute these particular queries with respect to this given database, that is your library database, right? So we have the problem statement with us. The next thing we are supposed to do is we are supposed to check out how we are going to retrieve these queries by writing your SQL commands, right? So the first thing we are supposed to do in any database is we need to create the particular database, right? So creation of the database means I need to create these relations. I need to create these relations, then I need to populate these relations. So first thing is creation of table. So let me check out how to go for creation of this tables, right? So the command we have for creation of table is create table and the table name. So here I want to create this publisher relation first. So I'll say create table publisher 1, and then I have to give the attributes name. The attribute I have here is name, and the data type is varchar to 20, and I want it to act as a primary key. So I'm specifying the constraint in front of this attribute as primary key. Then the next attribute I have is phone, and its data type is integer. Next attribute I have is address, and its data type is varchar to 20. So what I have done here, I have created this publisher table. The next table I'll create is book table. So I'll say create table book. Then the attribute is book ID, the data type is integer, and I want it to act as a primary key here. And then the next attribute is title, and its data type is varchar to 20 will be the length of it. Then comes pub year, and its data type is again varchar to 20. Then I am trying to refer for the publisher name, right? So the publisher name. So we have the name of the publisher in this table, publisher. So I'm trying to refer to that, and I will refer to that as publisher name attribute in this particular table, book 1. And I want to say to my relation that this will be referred from this publisher table, right? This will be referring to the primary key of this publisher table, right? So to specify that, what I'll say publisher name references publisher 1, and in this it is going to refer to this attribute name, right? So I'm saying the publisher name attribute of this book 1 references this publisher 1 name, right? And on delete cascade. So whenever I'm going to delete this name in this publisher, it should be deleted in this table book 1 also. So if I want that to happen, I need to give this constraint on this foreign key. So whenever I refer the primary key of one table in the other table, then this will act as a foreign key for this particular table. So that's how I have said like publisher name references publisher 1 name on delete cascade. Next, let us move on to creating the other table. So here I say create table book 1 authors. Then the attribute is author name, and its data type is varchar to size 20, right? Then I say book ID references book 1 book ID on delete cascade. And here I want both these attributes to be the primary key. So I want a composite primary key in this case. So how to specify this composite primary key? Then I'll say primary key book ID comma author. So this is how I can specify a composite primary key. If I want a single attribute to act as a primary key, so I can do like this and like this. If I want a composite attribute to act as a primary key, then I'll specify it like this. Next, let us create the next table. Create table library branch. Branch ID is the attribute, data type is integer, and I want it to act as a primary key of this particular table. Branch name is another attribute, its data type is varchar 2, and the size is 50. Then the next attribute I have is address varchar 2, and the size is 50. Then I'm trying to create the other table. So I'll say create table book copies. Number of copies is its first attribute with the data type as integer. Next attribute is book ID. This references book 1 book ID on delete cascade. Then branch ID references library branch ID on delete cascade. Here again I want a composite primary key, so I am going to specify it like this. primary key, book ID, comma, branch ID. Next, we'll create another relation, that is create table card1, and its attribute is card number and data type is integer, and I want it to act as a primary key. So I have given this primary key as a constraint at the end. The last table we are going to create is this book lending. Create table book lending, date out, the data type here is date, due date, the data type is date, book ID references book 1, book ID on delete cascade, branch ID references library branch 1, branch ID on delete cascade, card number references card 1, card number on delete cascade. So again I want a composite primary key here. So I'll say primary key, book ID, branch ID, card number. So what we have done, we have described all the tables that were needed for this library database. So now let us try to run these things in our SQL. So I'll copy this command and I'll try to run them in my SQL. So if you are successful to create your table, you will get this command table created. Similarly, let us try to create the other tables. So what we have done now, we have created all the tables that were needed. So if I want to check out like what have I defined in a table, then I can use this table description command DSC and the table name, right? So let us check out this table. What is there in this publisher table? Let us try to describe this table. So now can you see it is giving us a description for this publisher table what we created here. So it is saying the attributes are this and this is the constraint and this is the data type. So I have an attribute name with varchar2 and size of 20. This is a primary key, so its value cannot be null. So not null constraint is applicable to this data type or this attribute. Then we have the other attribute that is phone and its type is number and size is 38. And address is the other attribute and its data type is varchar2 and its size is 20. Similarly, you can try to describe the other tables which you have created and check out how the description of your table looks like. Okay, after we have done that, the next thing we are supposed to do is insertion of values to tables. I have created this table. The tables are empty now. I need to populate this relations. So to populate this relation, I can use this insert command. So I'll say insert into publisher values. These are the values I want to insert. If I want to insert a varchar value, then I'll give it in single quotes. If it is a number, I can give it without any quotes. So all the attributes should be in a comma separated list, right? So let us try to insert this 5 TPUs into this relation. So you can see here, it is saying like it has created these 5 rows. Next, let us try to insert the values into this next relation, that is book. So I have done with the insertion of this book. Next, let us try to insert into book authors. So we are done with that. Next, let us try to insert that into library branch. Next, we'll try to insert into this book copies. Then we'll try to insert these values into card1 relation. And at last, we'll try to insert the values into this book lending relation. So what I've done, I've created the concern tables and I've populated this tables. Next, if I want to check out what I've entered into this particular table, then I can use this select command. For example, I can say select star from card. So if I do that, it will give me all the entries, whatever I've done in this particular table card. So can you see here? These were the entries we did in this card, right? So you can see this. So I have entered this values 100, 101, 102, 103, 104. So when I say select star from card 1, it is going to list the attributes and their corresponding entries, whatever we have done for it, right? So similarly, you can check out for all your tables, whatever you have created. And now we come to this query writing part. So the first query is retrieve details of all books in the library. And what details you want? You want the ID, title, name of the publisher, authors, number of copies in each branch, right? This is what is asked. So whenever you are supposed to write a query, what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to check out which are the attributes you are asked for, and then you will look into the table and check out which table has this particular entries. So based on that you can write a query. So your query writing has got this syntax select from where, right? So in the select part, I'll try to write all the attributes that I am in need of, right? And in the from, I'm going to write which are the tables from which I'm going to retrieve those attributes. And in the where class, I'm going to specify the condition upon which I will be retrieving these attributes, right? So for the first query, the select class will have these many attributes. So first let us look into the different relations from which we are supposed to take this attributes, right? So in the from class we are supposed to specify that I'm going to refer to this book as B, book authors as A, book copies as C, library branch as L. So from these tables B, A, C and L, I'm going to retrieve this attributes B dot book ID, B dot title, B dot publisher name. That means these three attributes I will be choosing from this first table, that is book, which is given an alias name as B here. Next, from this another table book authors, which is given an alias name as A, I'm going to choose this attribute author name. So I say A dot author name. And from this book copies, which has got an alias name as C, I'm going to choose this C dot number of copies. And from this library branch, which has got an alias name as L, I'm going to choose this attribute branch ID. So I'll say L dot branch ID, right? When we are trying to retrieve attributes from more than one relation, then I need to join these tables because not all the attributes I'm in need are available in one single table. When that is the case, I need to join these tables and then I'm supposed to retrieve those attributes. And the other thing we need to remember is whenever we are trying to join tables together, we join them based on the primary key and foreign key concept, right? So here in the where, that is the condition I have specified, right? So whenever I want to join this book with book authors, I'll join them based on this book ID. So that's why in the where I'm specifying the condition B dot book ID is equal to A dot book ID. And How am I going to join this book and this book copies table? I'm saying B dot book ID is equal to C dot book ID. Then how am I going to join this book copies with library branch? I'm saying L dot branch ID is equal to C dot branch ID. So what I've done, I have these four tables from which I'm getting all these attributes, and here I have specified the condition upon which I can join these four tables. And whenever you are joining, as I already told you, you please try to join them based on this primary key foreign key concept, so that you don't get any superior tupules when you're joining the tables, right? So our first query is done. So let us try to execute this query. So this is the output, right? So based on this, I am able to get this 7 rows selected based on the condition and the way I have populated my database. The other thing you need to remember is whenever you are trying to populate your database, you should look at your queries. When you execute the queries, at least there should be some tuples that you will get as an output on the execution of a query. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So you should be careful about that thing when you are trying to insert values into your relations. Okay, then now let us look at the next query. What you are asked here, get the particulars of borrowers who have borrowed more than 3 books, and they should be from Jan 2007 to June 2017. From Jan 2017 to June 2017. So what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to find the borrowers who have borrowed 3 books in the period from Jan 2017 to June 2017, right? So let us try to check out like how we can get these details. Here all these details can be got from one table, that is our book lending table, right? So I will be selecting card number as the attribute, right? I'll select card number from book lending relation. And what is the condition? The condition here is date out between 1 Jan 2017 and 1 July 2017. So I am trying to specify that the date should be between this range. And then I am trying to group by the card number. And the other condition here is they should have borrowed 3 books, more than 3 books. So I am having class with the count greater than 3. So this is saying having count greater than 3, right? So now let us try to execute this query. So we are having this card number 101 which has borrowed 3 books in this particular period, 3 or more books in this particular time span. Next, let us look at the next table. Next query. What is that query? Partition the book table based on year of publication. Partition the book table based on what? Year of publication. Demonstrate its working with a simple query. You are supposed to demonstrate by using a simple query. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to create a view for this particular query. What do you mean by a view? It is a virtual table. Virtual table means it will not be actually stored in your database, but we are trying to create a temporary table so that we can get the data whichever we are interested in, right? So how to create a view? You can use this command create view. This is the view name I'm giving, and as what? Select pub year from book 1. So I want to create a temporary table by name view underscore publication 1, and in that what attribute I'll have? I'll have pub year attribute from this table book 1, right? So let us try to execute this query. So if your view is created successfully, then you will get this command view created. So now let us try to check out what is there in this view. So what I'll do, I'll use the select command, select star from this view name. What is the view name? View underscore publication. So can you see here now? In this new view, that is view underscore publication, what is there? Publication year is there. The publication year is there in this new view that has been created. Let us now move on to this next query. The next query says create a view of all books and its number of copies that are currently available in the library. So you are asked to create again a temporary table, and it should have this the number of copies that are currently available in library. So how will we do this? We'll say create view. The view name is v underscore books as select b dot book id comma b dot title comma c dot number of copies from book 1 as b, book copies as c, library branch as L. The condition is where b dot book id is equal to c dot book id and c dot branch id is equal to L dot branch id, right? So this is the joining condition to join these three tables together. Okay, now let us try to execute this query. So our view is created. So again I can use this command, select start from, and I can say that as v underscore books. So when I try to look into my new view that is created, that is our v dot books one, this is the details I'm getting. What is the book ID? What is the title and the number of copies that are available in the library. So if at all you are asked to execute a delete command, always keep it at the end of your all the queries. So what you are asked here, delete a book in book table, update the contents of other table to reflect this data manipulation operation. Okay, so how will we write this? We'll say delete from book 1 where book ID is equal to 3. I'm trying to delete a particular book with book ID 3. So we'll say delete from book 1 where book ID is equal to 3. So you can see here one row has been deleted. So when we were trying to give foreign keys in the other table, in the table creation, we had given on delete cascade. So whenever I delete this book ID 3 from book 1, wherever this book ID is referred as a foreign key, in all those tables also it will be deleted. So if you want, you can again use this select star from the other tables where this book ID has been referenced, and then you can check out whether this book ID 3 is there or not, right? So where all we have this book ID. So let us get back to this table. So book ID. So in book 1, I have this book ID. Similarly in book authors, also I have this book ID. And then in book copies also I have this book ID. So now let us try to check out these three tables: book 1, book authors, and then book copies and check out whether any entry is there by this book ID 3, because just now we deleted that, right? So let me say select star from. So you can see here, these are the book IDs. The book ID 3 has been deleted. So you can see here there's no book ID by 3, right? Which are the other tables we just now talked about? We talked about this book authors and this book copies. So let us try to check out whether we have these in this particular tables or not. So can you see here? No book ID with 3 is there. But earlier it was there because we had an entry for this book ID 3. But now since we have deleted from this book 1 and we had used on delete cascade option, we are not able to find that in the table, in the other table where it has been referenced as a foreign key. Similarly, you can even check out in this book copies also. Right? You can see here also in book ID 3 is not there, right? So this is how you can confirm like on delete cascade has worked here, right? If you don't use this, then you will not be able to delete this book ID from book also, because it is been referenced in the other table as foreign key. So whenever you have foreign key, better to use this on delete cascade option. So with this, we are done with the first SQL query. Hope you guys enjoyed this.